Hello everyone, and welcome to Fresh Master Channel. Today, we are going to have some story from Reddit. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below. These simple clips mean a lot to the future of this channel.
The morning of my daughter's wedding, I stood in my workshop at 5 a.m., hands trembling as I gripped the steel beam I'd been welding. 25 years of marriage, 23 years raising my first daughter, 14 years believing my youngest was mine. All lies. My name is Dean Carter, and I'm about to watch my family explode in front of 300 guests. But for the first time in months, I'm smiling. The summer heat was already crushing by 7 in the morning as I worked on the final touches for Eliza's wedding reception. The backyard looked like something from a magazine. White roses climbing the pergola I'd built with my own hands, string lights I'd personally tested 3 times, and a dance floor that cost me 6 months of overtime. Dad, you've been out here since dawn. Eliza appeared at the workshop door, coffee in hand, still in her pajamas. At 23, she had her mother's refined features, but my practical nature. The wedding isn't until 4. Just want everything perfect for my girl, I said, setting down the wrench. Your mother inside. She left early. Something about final dress fittings. Eliza's voice carried an odd note. Dad, can I ask you something? I turned to face her fully. In the harsh morning light, I could see dark circles under her eyes. What's eating at you, sweetheart? She hesitated, then stepped closer. Do you think Grant really loves me? The question hit like a punch to the gut. Grant Holloway, ambitious young attorney, political family connections, charm that could sell ice to polar bears. Everything I'd thought I wanted for my daughter. Why would you ask that? It's just... She sat on my workbench, suddenly looking younger than her years. Sometimes when he looks at me, it feels like he's looking through me. Like I'm not really there. I wanted to tell her about the things I'd noticed. How Grant's eyes followed Madeline around the room during family dinners. How he always found excuses to help her in the kitchen. How he knew exactly how she liked her coffee without ever asking. Instead, I said, cold feet are normal, honey. Marriage is a big step. It's not cold feet, Dad. It's... She took a shaky breath. I think he's in love with someone else. I froze. What makes you say that? Little things. The way he lights up when Mom calls. How he always asks about her first when he comes over. Yesterday, I caught him staring at her photo on the mantle for like 5 minutes. I forced my voice to stay steady. Eliza, that's a serious accusation. I know, and I hope I'm wrong, but Dad... She looked directly at me. What if I'm not? Before I could answer, the sliding door opened, and Madeline appeared. Even at 7 in the morning, she looked immaculate. Not a hair out of place, makeup perfect. Wearing a sundress that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Dean, you're going to exhaust yourself before the ceremony, she said, her voice carrying that cultured tone she'd perfected during her years on the school board. And Eliza, you should be getting ready. We have appointments all morning. Morning, sweetheart, I said, studying her face. You're up early. Busy day. She avoided my eyes. Grant called. He wants to stop by around 10 to discuss some last-minute details. I saw Eliza's expression tighten, almost imperceptibly. What details? Something about the seating arrangements. You know how particular his family is? Madeline's smile didn't reach her eyes. We should probably discuss it privately. Politics and all that. Of course, Eliza said quietly. Can't have the wrong people sitting together. The tension was thick enough to cut. I watched my wife and daughter exchange what looked like a normal conversation. But underneath, I could feel the currents of something much darker. I'll be inside in a minute, Madeline said. Dean, don't forget you have that appointment at 11. After she left, Eliza turned to me. What appointment? Just some business stuff, I lied. The truth was, I'd cleared my entire morning. Something was happening today, and I intended to be here for all of it. Eliza studied my face for a long moment. Dad, if you found out something terrible about someone you loved, would you want to know? Always, I said without hesitation. Truth is, the only foundation worth building on. She nodded slowly. Even if it destroyed everything? Especially then. 2 hours later, I was supposed to be at Henderson & Associates discussing electrical contracts. Instead, I was crouched behind the garden shed, watching Grant's BMW pull into our driveway. Through the kitchen window, I could see Madeline waiting for him. She'd changed into a different dress, something silky that clung to her figure. for a business meeting about seating arrangements. Grant entered through the front door like he owned the place. Within minutes, they were standing close, too close, by the kitchen island. I couldn't hear their words, but their body language spoke volumes. Then I saw Madeline's hand touch his chest. My hands clenched into fists. 25 years of marriage, and she was caressing another man in our kitchen on our daughter's wedding day. I was about to storm inside when I noticed movement upstairs. A shadow in Eliza's bedroom window. She was watching too. Grant's hands were on Madeline's waist now. She was leaning into him, her head tilted back. They were about to kiss when Grant suddenly stepped back, saying something I couldn't hear. Madeline laughed. A sound I hadn't heard from her in years. Light, genuine, happy, the way she used to laugh with me. I watched my wife of 25 years transform into someone I didn't recognize, someone alive in a way she hadn't been for me in years. Then Grant's hands were in her hair, and they were kissing with the passion of teenagers. My vision went red. I took a step toward the house, ready to tear the door off its hinges when someone grabbed my arm. "Dad, don't!" Eliza stood beside me, her face pale but determined. "Not yet." "Eliza, I know what it is." Her voice was steady, but I could see her hands shaking. "I've known for weeks. Weeks. I've been documenting everything. Times, dates, locations. I hired a private investigator last month." I stared at my daughter. "You what?" "I'm not stupid, Dad. I've watched them together. The lingering looks, the private conversations, the way Mom lights up when he's around." She pulled out her phone. "Want to see what we found?" The first photo showed Grant and Madeline entering the Riverside Hotel. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago. The second showed them leaving together 2 hours later. "There are 17 different occasions," Eliza said quietly, "all documented." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed proof, and because—" She looked at me with eyes far older than her 23 years. "I wanted to give them enough rope to hang themselves." Inside the house, Grant and Madeline had moved to the living room. Through the large windows, I could see them on the couch. Grant's hands were roaming freely, and Madeline was responding like a woman starved for attention. "We're going to stop this," I said, starting toward the house again. "No!" Eliza's voice was sharp. "We're going to let them finish." "Eliza, Dad, trust me. I have a plan." I watched in horrified fascination as my wife began unbuttoning Grant's shirt. This was my home, my living room, the couch where we'd read bedtime stories to our daughters. "I can't watch this," I said. "Then don't. But we need them to think they're safe. We need them comfortable and confident." "For what?" Eliza's smile was cold as winter. "For their performance this afternoon." That evening, while Madeline was at her final dress fitting and Grant was supposedly handling family obligations, Eliza and I sat in my workshop going through evidence that would have made a prosecutor weep with joy. "Talk to me about this private investigator," I said, studying surveillance photos that made my stomach churn. "His name is Russell," Eliza said. "Russell Blackwood. He's actually your brother." I looked up sharply. "What?" "I found him through his website, Blackwood Investigations. I didn't realize the connection until I met him." She handed me a business card. "He said he's been trying to reach you for years." Russell, my older brother who disappeared into the military 20 years ago after a falling out with our parents. Last I'd heard, he was doing security work somewhere in Colorado. "He's good at what he does," Eliza continued. "And when I told him who we were investigating, he took the case personally." "How personally?" "He's been working for free, said something about family loyalty." I studied the photos again. Grant and Madeline at restaurants across town. Grant and Madeline at the Riverside Hotel. Grant and Madeline in what looked like a private parking garage, pressed against his BMW. How long has this been going on? "Based on what we found, at least 4 months, but Russell thinks longer." "What makes him think that?" Eliza pulled out a manila folder. "Financial records. Mom's been withdrawing large amounts of cash for over a year, always in amounts just under the reporting threshold." "How did you get these?" "I'm listed as an authorized user on her account, has been since college." She spread the documents across my workbench. "Look at the pattern. $500 here, $700 there, never more than $900 at once. Always from different branches. What was she doing with the money? Paying for hotel rooms, restaurants, gifts?" Eliza handed me another set of photos. Russell followed her to Tiffany & Company last month. She bought Gran a watch that cost more than my car. I felt like someone was slowly strangling me. Our money, she confirmed. But that's not the worst part. She handed me a single sheet of paper, a laboratory report from Advanced DNA Solutions. What is this? I had Russell obtain samples from Chloe's room. Hair from her brush, saliva from her water bottle. My hands began to shake as I read the results. Chloe Carter was not my biological daughter. When did you order this test? 2 weeks ago. The results came back yesterday. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. 14 years. 14 years of believing Chloe was mine. 14 years of loving her, protecting her, teaching her to ride a bike and helping with homework and worrying about boys. Does she know? No, and I don't think she should. Not yet. Who's the father? Eliza pulled out another document. David Ashford. Remember him? The name hit me like a sledgehammer. David Ashford, former state senator, political golden boy, married to one of the wealthiest families in the state. He'd been involved in some scandal years ago and disappeared from public life. How do you know it's him? Mom kept a box of letters in the attic. Russell and I found them last week. She handed me a small stack of handwritten notes. Read the dates. The letters spanned nearly 2 decades. Love letters, explicit letters. Letters talking about their future together, about leaving their spouses, about the child they'd created. Chloe, I whispered. Chloe. I set the letters down carefully, afraid I might tear them apart with my bare hands. What else do you know? Ashford's been providing financial support, not directly, it's hidden through some kind of trust, but Russell traced the payments. How much? About $2,000 a month? For the past 14 years? The workshop felt like it was spinning. My wife had been having an affair for decades. My youngest daughter wasn't mine. The money we'd been living on included payments from her real father. There's more, Eliza said quietly. How can there be more? She handed me another folder. Grant isn't just sleeping with Mom. He's been embezzling from his law firm. What? He's been stealing from client escrow accounts. Small amounts, but consistent. Russell traced some of the money back to gifts for Mom. I studied the financial documents. Wire transfers, cashier's checks, expense reports that didn't add up. How did Russell get all this? He has friends in law enforcement, and Grant isn't as careful as he thinks he is. So Grant is stealing money to buy gifts for my wife, who's been using our money and her lover's support to finance her affairs. That's about the size of it. I stood up abruptly, knocking over my coffee. I need to confront them. Tonight. No, Dad, we stick to the plan. What plan, Eliza? This is insane. We can't let the wedding. We absolutely can, and we will. Her voice carried an authority I'd never heard before. Dad, think about it. If we confront them now, what happens? They confess, we cancel the wedding, I divorce your mother. And Grant disappears. His family has money and connections. He'll land on his feet somewhere else. Mom will play the sufferer, claim you drove her to it. Chloe will be caught in the middle. So what are you suggesting? Public humiliation, complete and total destruction of their reputations, legal consequences for both of them. I studied my daughter's face. When had she become so calculating, so ruthless? Tell me the plan. Tomorrow, in front of 300 guests, we expose everything. The affair, the embezzlement, the paternity fraud. We have video evidence, financial records, DNA tests. We present it all at once, when they can't run or hide or spin the narrative. And then what? Then we watch their lives fall apart. Grant loses his job, his license, probably goes to prison. Mom loses her reputation, her position on the school board, probably most of her assets in the divorce. And you lose your wedding day. Eliza smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Dad, I stopped wanting to marry Grant the minute I realized he was sleeping with my mother. This isn't about my wedding anymore. This is about justice. I looked at the evidence spread across my workbench. Photos, financial records, DNA tests, love letters, 25 years of my life reduced to documentation of betrayal. You really want to do this? In front of everyone? I want them to feel the same humiliation and shame they've put us through. I want their families to see exactly who they really are. I want consequences. I thought about Chloe, asleep upstairs, having no idea that tomorrow would change everything she thought she knew about our family. What about your sister? We'll protect her. Whatever happens, we'll make sure she's okay. And after? When the dust settles? Then we rebuild, without the liars. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She'd inherited my stubborn streak and her mother's intelligence, but something else too, something harder. When did you become so... I searched for the right word. Vindictive? She shrugged. The moment I realized my own mother was sleeping with my fiancé. That kind of betrayal changes a person. At midnight, I called Russell's number. Dean? His voice was gruff, older than I remembered, but unmistakably my brother. Eliza told me everything. Figured she would. You ready for tomorrow? Are you? Brother, I've been waiting 20 years to help you with something. This isn't exactly what I had in mind, but I'll take it. What's our next move? You and Eliza stick to the script. Act normal. Go through all the wedding preparations like nothing's wrong. I'll handle the technical side. Technical side? The presentation equipment, making sure everything works perfectly when showtime comes. Russell, are we doing the right thing? There was a long pause. Dean, I've spent 2 decades investigating cheating spouses and corrupt politicians. Trust me when I tell you that sometimes public exposure is the only thing that works. Sometimes people need to face consequences in front of the people they've been lying to. And if it destroys Chloe, then we'll be there to help her pick up the pieces. But Dean, she deserves to know the truth about her parentage. Keeping that secret isn't protecting her. It's protecting Madeline. After I hung up, I sat in the dark workshop for another hour, thinking about the man I'd been yesterday morning and the man I was becoming. 24 hours ago, I was a devoted husband and father, working overtime to give my daughter the perfect wedding. Now I was conspiring to destroy 2 lives in front of hundreds of people. The scary part wasn't the revenge itself. The scary part was how much I was looking forward to it. I woke up at dawn on Eliza's wedding day with the kind of clarity that only comes after you've accepted that everything you believed about your life was a lie. Madeline was already up, moving around the bedroom with nervous energy. Big day, she said without looking at me. Biggest day, I agreed. She was wearing a robe I'd given her for our anniversary 3 years ago. Seeing her in it now felt like a violation. I'm going to check on the girls, she said. I'll be down in a minute. After she left, I opened the safe hidden behind our wedding photo. Inside were the divorce papers Russell had helped me prepare, signed and notarized. Also a USB drive containing copies of every piece of evidence we'd gathered. Today, one way or another, this would all be over. Downstairs, the house was buzzing with activity. Caterers were setting up in the backyard. Florists were making final adjustments. A team of photographers was documenting everything for what they thought would be a fairy tale wedding. Chloe was at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas, eating cereal and watching the chaos with amusement. Morning, sweetheart, I said, kissing the top of her head. Morning, Dad. Mom's freaking out about everything being perfect. I studied her face, really studied it. Now that I knew the truth, I could see it. The shape of her eyes was different from mine and Eliza's. Her nose, the set of her jaw, even the way she held her head when she was thinking. How had I missed it for 14 years? Dad, you okay? Just thinking about how grown up you're getting. She rolled her eyes. I'm 14, not 4. I know, but you'll always be my little girl. The words came out more forcefully than I'd intended. Chloe looked at me strangely. Is everything okay? You've been acting weird lately? Wedding stress, I lied. Big day for the family. Yeah, if Eliza actually goes through with it. I went very still. What do you mean? She's been acting strange too, like really strange. Yesterday I caught her crying in her room, but when I asked what was wrong, she said it was happy tears. Chloe shook her head. Those weren't happy tears. Maybe she's just nervous. Maybe. Or maybe she finally figured out that Grant's a creep. Chloe, Dad, I'm not blind. I've seen the way he looks at Mom. It's gross. My heart started pounding. What do you mean? Like, the way guys look at girls they want to... it's disgusting. He's supposed to marry Eliza, not stare at her mom. Before I could respond, Madeline swept into the kitchen wearing a different outfit, something elegant and form-fitting that I'd never seen before. Chloe, you need to get ready. The hairstylist will be here in an hour. I'm just eating breakfast. Well, eat faster. Today has to be perfect. I watched my wife fuss over details that didn't matter, and I wondered if she was nervous about the wedding or about seeing Grant. Did she think they were being careful? Did she believe no one suspected? "Dean, you should get ready too," Madeline said. "And please try to keep your emotional speech short. People don't want to hear you ramble." "Don't worry," I said. "My speech will be memorable." At 9 o'clock, while Madeline was upstairs getting her hair done, I met with Russell in the garage. "Everything ready?" I asked. "Better than ready." He showed me a small remote control. "This connects to the projection system. When you give the signal, everything starts." "What's the signal?" "Eliza will ask if anyone has any objections to the marriage. That's your cue." "And if I change my mind?" Russell studied my face. "Are you thinking about changing your mind?" I thought about the love letters hidden in our attic, the hotel receipts, the DNA test, Grant's hands on my wife in our living room. "No, I'm not changing my mind." "Good, because Dean, this is bigger than just revenge now." "What do you mean?" I did some more digging into Grant's law firm. He's stolen over $200,000 in the past year. If we don't expose this, other people are going to get hurt. How many people know what we're planning? Just us, and it stays that way until showtime. At noon, guests started arriving. I played the role of the proud father, greeting people, making small talk, pretending my world wasn't about to explode. Grant arrived with his parents, old money types who'd never quite approved of our family's working-class background. His father was a judge. His mother came from steel fortune. They expected their son to marry well, and Eliza had checked all their boxes. Too bad they didn't know their golden boy was a thief and a homewrecker. I watched Grant work the crowd, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, playing the part of the devoted groom. When he thought no one was looking, his eyes searched for Madeline. She appeared at the top of the stairs in her mother-of-the-bride dress, and I saw Grant's breath catch. The fool was genuinely infatuated with my wife. Madeline floated down the stairs like she was the one getting married. She'd never looked more beautiful, and she knew it. This was her moment as much as Eliza's, maybe more. "You look stunning," Grant said when she reached the bottom. "Thank you," she replied, her voice soft and intimate. They were 3 feet apart, surrounded by family and friends, and they were making love. "Where's Eliza?" I asked loudly. "Still getting ready," Madeline said, finally breaking eye contact with Grant. "You know how brides are." I found Eliza in her room, fully dressed but staring out the window at the gathering crowd below. "Second thoughts?" I asked. "About marrying him?" "No. About what we're planning?" She turned to face me. "Dad, once we do this, there's no taking it back." "I know. Mom's life will be ruined. Grant's too. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about 25 years of believing I had a faithful wife. 14 years of loving a daughter who wasn't mine. The thousands of dollars spent on hotel rooms and gifts for another man. They ruined their own lives. "We're just making sure everyone knows about it." Eliza nodded slowly. "Then let's go get married." The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock in our backyard. By 3:30, 300 guests were seated in white chairs facing an altar I'd built with my own hands. I should have felt proud. This was everything I'd worked for. My daughter's perfect day in a perfect setting, with family and friends gathered to celebrate. Instead, I felt like a man preparing for war. At 5 minutes to 4, I took my position at the end of the aisle. The string quartet began playing, and the wedding party made their entrance. Grant looked nervous but handsome in his tuxedo. His best man, some law school buddy, stood beside him grinning like an idiot. The bridesmaids came next, followed by the maid of honor. Finally, the music changed to the traditional wedding march. Eliza appeared at the back of the yard, radiant in her grandmother's wedding dress. She'd never looked more beautiful or more determined. We walked slowly down the aisle together, my arm linked through hers. I could feel the eyes of 300 people on us, but all I could think about was the USB drive in my jacket pocket. When we reached the altar, I kissed Eliza's cheek and turned to face Grant. "Take care of her," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I will, sir," he replied. Liar. I took my seat next to Madeline in the front row. She squeezed my hand and smiled at me with what looked like genuine affection. 25 years of marriage, and she'd become a stranger. The minister began the ceremony with the usual words about love and commitment and fidelity. I wondered if Grant and Madeline were thinking about those concepts the same way I was. The ceremony proceeded normally until the minister reached the critical moment. "If anyone here has any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." This was it. The moment of truth. I stood up slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I do," I said in a clear, carrying voice. The entire crowd turned to stare at me. I could hear confused murmurs, shocked gasps, someone dropping their program. "Dad?" Eliza's voice was perfectly steady, like we'd rehearsed this moment. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but there are some things these people need to know before you make a lifelong commitment." Grant's face had gone white. "Mr. Carter, what are you—" "I'm talking," I said, and my voice carried the authority of 25 years of frustration. "Everyone here deserves to know exactly who they're celebrating today." I pulled out the remote Russell had given me. Behind the altar, a large screen descended from the framework I'd supposedly built for decorative lighting. "Grant Holloway and my wife Madeline have been having an affair for months. I have proof." The screen flickered to life, showing the surveillance photo of Grant and Madeline entering the Riverside Hotel together. The crowd erupted. People were gasping, shouting, standing up to get a better look. Grant was stammering denials, but his voice was lost in the chaos. Madeline had gone completely white. "Dean, stop this!" "But that's not all," I continued, my voice somehow carrying over the noise. "Grant has also been embezzling money from his law firm to pay for gifts for my wife." More photos flashed on the screen. Financial records, receipts from Tiffany and Company. "And Madeline has been stealing from our joint accounts to finance their affair." Bank statements appeared on screen, with the suspicious withdrawals highlighted in red. "But the best part," I said, my voice turning cold, "is that my youngest daughter, Chloe, isn't actually my child. She's the result of another affair Madeline had 14 years ago with State Senator David Ashford." The DNA test results filled the screen. The crowd had gone completely silent now. 300 people staring at evidence of betrayal so complete, so devastating, that even the gossips were speechless. Grant bolted. He actually ran, pushing through the crowd toward the parking area. But Russell was waiting for him. My brother stepped out from behind a tree and clotheslined Grant so hard the younger man hit the ground and skidded 3 feet. "Going somewhere?" Russell asked mildly. By now, Madeline was sobbing, trying to reach the screen to somehow stop the presentation, but Eliza blocked her path. "Did you really think we were that stupid?" my daughter asked her mother. "Did you think we'd never figure it out?" "Eliza, please, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You've been screwing my fiancé. In our house, on our furniture, with our money." The crowd was starting to move now. Some people were leaving, not wanting to be part of this disaster. Others were pulling out phones, recording everything. Grant was back on his feet, Russell's hand firm on his shoulder. "Let me go," he demanded. "Can't do that, son. See, I'm a licensed private investigator and I have reason to believe you've committed multiple felonies." "You can't detain me." "Actually, I can. Citizen's arrest. And look, here come some friends of mine." 2 police cars were pulling into the driveway. Apparently, Russell had been busy with more than just surveillance equipment. I watched Grant's face crumble as he realized this wasn't just public humiliation. There were going to be real consequences. Madeline was still crying, but now she was angry too. "You planned this," she accused me. "You planned this whole thing." "We planned this," Eliza corrected her. "Dad and I, together." "Eliza, how could you do this to your own mother?" "How could you do this to your own daughter?" Eliza shot back. "How could you sleep with my fiancé? How could you lie about Chloe's paternity for 14 years? How could you steal money from our family to pay for hotel rooms?" Madeline had no answer for that. The police were arresting Grant now, reading him his rights while his parents watched in horror. His mother was crying. His father, the judge, looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. I found Chloe in the crowd, standing with her Aunt Sarah, looking confused and scared. "Dad, what's happening?" she asked when I reached her. "Come on, sweetheart, let's go inside and talk." 3 hours later, the chaos had finally died down. The police had taken Grant away in handcuffs. Most of the guests had left, though a few family members remained to help clean up the disaster that had been my daughter's wedding. Madeline had locked herself in our bedroom and was refusing to come out. Her lawyer was on his way. Eliza was in the kitchen, still wearing her wedding dress, calmly eating a sandwich like she'd just attended someone else's wedding, instead of orchestrating the public destruction of her own. "How are you feeling?" I asked her. "Relieved," she said without hesitation. "For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe." "Any regrets?" "About Grant? No. About doing it this way?" She considered the question. Maybe we could have been more private about it. But Dad, they were so brazen, so confident that they were smarter than us. They deserved to be humiliated. What about your mother? Eliza's expression hardened. What about her? She made her choices. She's still your mother. Is she? Because mothers aren't supposed to sleep with their daughters' fiancés. Mothers aren't supposed to lie about paternity for 14 years. Mothers aren't supposed to steal from their families. I couldn't argue with that logic. How's Chloe handling everything? Better than I expected. She said she always wondered why she looked so different from us. She's actually relieved to know the truth. I'd spent 2 hours with Chloe explaining everything as gently as possible. She'd cried, asked a lot of questions, but ultimately seemed to understand that the man who'd raised her was still her father in every way that mattered. What happens now? I asked. Now we deal with the legal consequences, for all of us. Russell appeared in the kitchen doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but we need to talk about next steps. What kind of next steps? Grant's been charged with embezzlement and fraud. The DA thinks they can make the charges stick. We gave them enough evidence to prosecute a dozen cases. And Madeline? That's more complicated. The affair itself isn't illegal, obviously, but the financial fraud could be a problem for her. Explain. Russell sat down across from us. She was stealing from the school district where she works. Not much, a few hundred here and there, but it adds up. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss her position. She'll lose her job? Almost certainly. And Dean, there's something else. The media is already picking up the story. What do you mean? He handed me his phone. The headline read, Local School Board Officials Wedding Day Scandal Exposes Affair and Embezzlement. Below it was a photo of Grant being led away in handcuffs, with Madeline crying in the background. How did they get this so fast? 300 guests, most of them with smartphones. The story was on social media within an hour. I scrolled through the article. It had all the details. The affair, the embezzlement, even speculation about Chloe's paternity. This is going to follow us forever, I said. Maybe, Russell agreed. But Dean, think about what would have happened if you'd done nothing. Grant would have married Eliza, probably continued stealing money and cheating with Madeline. The truth would have come out eventually, but by then the damage would have been even worse. What about Chloe's reputation? She doesn't deserve this. No, she doesn't. But she deserves the truth. And she deserves a father who's willing to fight for her. I am her father. Exactly. Biology doesn't change that. That evening, after everyone had left and the house was quiet, I found myself alone in my workshop, staring at the tools I'd used to build the perfect wedding setup. All that work, all those hours of careful preparation. For what? But as I thought about it, I realized the day had gone exactly as planned. Not the plan I'd started with, but the plan Eliza and I had developed together. We'd exposed the truth. We'd protected our family. We'd made sure there were consequences for betrayal. The workshop door opened, and Eliza appeared, now wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Can't sleep either? She asked. Too much adrenaline. She sat on my workbench, just like she had that morning a lifetime ago. Dad, I need to ask you something. Shoot. Do you hate her? Mom, I thought about that question for a long time. I hate what she did. I hate the lies, the betrayal, the years of deception. But Eliza, she gave me you and Chloe. For that alone, I can't hate her completely. Even after everything? Even after everything. That doesn't mean I can forgive her or trust her again. But hate? Hate takes too much energy. What are you going to do about the divorce? File the papers Monday morning. With all the evidence we have, it should be straightforward. Will you ask for custody of Chloe? Absolutely. After today, I don't think Madeline is in any position to argue about custody arrangements. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, father and daughter, survivors of a family apocalypse. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for believing me when I told you what was happening, for helping me expose the truth, for not trying to protect Mom at our expense. Thank you for having the courage to do what needed to be done. What you did today, that took strength I didn't know you had. I learned from watching you. You taught me that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even when it hurts. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office, signing the final divorce papers. Grant had been sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay full restitution to his law firm. His legal license was permanently revoked. His political family had completely disowned him. Madeline had lost her job with the school district and was facing her own criminal charges for misappropriation of funds. She'd moved in with her sister and was working as a substitute teacher while trying to rebuild her life. The media attention had been intense for about a week, then faded as newer scandals took precedence. But locally, we were still the family that had the spectacular wedding day meltdown. "How are the girls handling everything?" my lawyer asked. "Better than expected. Eliza has started therapy and seems to be working through her feelings about Grant and the wedding. She's talking about going back to school for her master's degree. And Chloe? She's adjusting. It's been hard for her, learning that everything she thought she knew about her parentage was wrong. But she's a tough kid." "What about contact with their mother?" "Eliza isn't speaking to her. Chloe sees her occasionally, but it's strained. Madeline is trying to rebuild those relationships, but it's going to take time." "And you? How are you doing?" I thought about that question. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a married man with what I thought was a stable family life. Now I was divorced, single parenting a teenager, and dealing with the aftermath of very public revenge. I'm doing okay. For the first time in years, I know exactly where I stand with everyone in my life. No more lies, no more deception. It's actually liberating. Any regrets about how you handled things? About exposing the truth? No. About doing it so publicly? Sometimes. But Russell was right. Private confrontation would have just given them a chance to minimize the damage and continue lying. This way, there were real consequences. What's next for you? I'm expanding my business. Got a big contract to rewire the new municipal building. Chloe and I are talking about taking a vacation this summer, just the two of us. And Eliza is considering moving back home for a while until she figures out her next steps. Sounds like you're rebuilding. We are. It's different than what we had before, but it's honest. And after 25 years of living with lies, honest feels pretty good. That evening, I picked up Chloe from school and found her waiting with a big smile on her face. "Good day?" I asked. "Great day. I got an A on my biology test, and Sarah Morrison invited me to her birthday party next weekend." "That's wonderful. How are you feeling about everything? Still okay with all the changes?" "Dad, can I tell you something?" "Always. I know the past few weeks have been really hard, and I know you're worried about how I'm handling everything. But honestly, I'm happier now than I've been in years." "Really?" "Really. Before, I always felt like there were secrets in our house. Like people were saying one thing but meaning something else. Now everything is out in the open. It hurt at first, but it's better than living with lies. I'm proud of you, you know that? I'm proud of you too. What you and Eliza did took guts. What we did. We're a family, Chloe. All of us together." "Even though I'm not really your daughter?" I pulled the car over and turned to face her. "Chloe Carter, you listen to me very carefully. Biology doesn't make a family. Love makes a family. Choice makes a family. I chose to be your father from the day you were born, and I choose it again every single day." "But David Ashford contributed DNA, that's all. I changed your diapers, taught you to ride a bike, helped you with homework, worried about you when you were sick, and celebrated your victories. I'm your father in every way that matters. What if he wants to see me? If you want to meet him someday, we'll talk about it. But you should know that he's been paying support through a trust fund all these years. He's known about you, but he's never tried to contact you. That tells you something about his priorities. I don't want to meet him. I just wanted to know what you thought about it. I think you're my daughter, and nothing will ever change that." 6 months later, Eliza graduated with her master's degree in counseling psychology. I was there in the front row, cheering louder than anyone else in the auditorium. Afterwards, at the celebration dinner, she pulled me aside. "Dad, I've been accepted to a PhD program. I want to specialize in family therapy, specifically helping families deal with betrayal and rebuilding trust." "That's incredible. I'm so proud of you." I realized that what we went through, the lies, the public exposure, the rebuilding, taught me something about how families survive trauma. I want to help other people get through what we got through. You'd be amazing at that. I've also been thinking about Grant. I tensed up. What about him? I don't love him anymore. I'm not sure I ever really loved him. I think I loved the idea of him. But Dad, I don't hate him either. What he did was terrible, but holding on to anger is just going to poison me. That's very mature of you. I learned it from watching you handle Mom. You could have destroyed her completely, but you didn't. You exposed the truth and let the consequences speak for themselves. Your mother made her own choices. I just made sure people knew what they were. Exactly. And that's what I want to do with my career. Help people see the truth about their situations so they can make better choices. A year later, I was working in my shop when Russell stopped by with coffee and donuts. "How's retirement treating you?" I asked. "Not bad. I'm thinking about writing a book about the investigation business, including our case, especially our case. With your permission, of course. What would you call it?" "Before She Said I Do. How a Father and Daughter Exposed 25 Years of Lies in 25 Minutes. Catchy. I think it could help other families who are dealing with similar situations. Show them that sometimes the truth is painful but necessary. What about the legal issues? Grant's case? Madeline's situation? Grant served 18 months, got out last month with good behavior. Last I heard, he was working construction in another state. His family still won't speak to him. And Madeline got probation and community service for the school district thing. She's working as a substitute teacher and trying to rebuild her relationship with the girls. Any success? Chloe sees her every other weekend. Eliza, that's going to take more time. Maybe forever. Maybe. But Dean, you should know, she's been asking about you. Madeline? She wants to know if you'd consider meeting with her to talk. I thought about that. A year ago, the idea would have filled me with rage. Now I just felt tired. What would be the point? Closure, maybe? Understanding? She's been in therapy, working through why she made the choices she made. And what did she figure out? That she was selfish and immature and thought she could have everything without consequences. She knows she destroyed our family for a fantasy. Is she sorry? She says she is. But Dean, I think the real question is whether you need to hear that apology to move forward. I considered it. Did I need to hear Madeline apologize? Did I need to understand why she'd thrown away 25 years of marriage for an affair with our daughter's fiancé? I'll think about it. 2 weeks later, I met Madeline at a coffee shop downtown. She looked older, tired, but somehow more real than she had in years. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Chloe asked me to. She thinks we should try to be civil for her sake." "How is she?" "She's good, doing well in school, made some new friends. She's playing volleyball and thinking about trying out for the academic team." "And Eliza is thriving. She's in her second year of graduate school, has a boyfriend who actually treats her well, and she's learning to trust people again." Madeline nodded, tears starting to form. "Dean, I need you to know how sorry I am. Not just for getting caught, but for what I did. For the lying, the betrayal, the years of deception. Why, Madeline? That's what I've never understood. Why Grant? Why throw away our family for that?" She was quiet for a long time. "I felt invisible. For years, I felt like I was just going through the motions of being a wife and mother, but I wasn't really living. Grant made me feel alive again." "So you decided to sleep with our daughter's fiancé?" "It wasn't that calculated. It just happened. And then it kept happening. And by the time I realized how wrong it was, I was in too deep to stop." "You could have stopped at any time. You could have told me you were unhappy. You could have asked for counseling or separation or divorce. You didn't have to lie for months." "I know, I was a coward. I wanted to have my stable life with you and my excitement with Grant, and I convinced myself I could manage both without anyone getting hurt." "Without anyone finding out, you mean?" "Yes. I thought I was smarter than I was." "What about Chloe? What about letting me believe she was mine for 14 years? That's the part I'm most ashamed of. David and I had a brief affair when she was conceived, but I convinced myself you were the father because that's what I wanted to believe. When she was born and I saw how much you loved her, I couldn't bear to take that away from either of you. So you let me pay for her, raise her, love her, while her real father sent support money through a trust fund. Yes, and I'm not asking you to forgive me for that. I'm just asking you to know that I'm sorry." I studied her face. She looked sincere, genuinely remorseful, but sincerity didn't undo 25 years of lies. "What do you want from me, Madeline?" "Nothing. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did to you, to our family. I wanted you to know that I don't blame you for exposing everything the way you did. You don't? No. You and Eliza had every right to protect yourselves. I created the situation that made that necessary. What about Grant? Any regrets there? I regret that I destroyed his life along with mine. He was young and stupid, and I was old enough to know better. The affair was my responsibility more than his. We sat in silence for a while, two people who had once loved each other trying to figure out how to coexist in the aftermath of complete betrayal. Are you dating anyone? I asked. No, and I won't be for a long time. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not lying to everyone I care about. That's probably wise. What about you? I've gone on a few dates. Nothing serious yet. I'm taking it slow. I hope you find someone who deserves you. I hope you find some peace. When I got home that evening, Chloe was waiting for me with homework spread across the kitchen table. How did it go with Mom? She asked. It was civil. She's genuinely sorry for what she did. Do you forgive her? I'm working on it, not because she deserves it, but because holding on to anger is exhausting. Will you ever get back together? No, sweetheart. Too much has happened. Too much trust has been broken, but we can learn to be civil for your sake. Good. I love both of you, but I like our life the way it is now. Me too. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I found myself thinking about the man I'd been a year ago and the man I was now. A year ago, I was living a lie, believing in a marriage and a family that existed only in my imagination. I was working overtime to pay for another man's child, while my wife used our money to finance an affair with our daughter's fiancé. Now, I was divorced, single parenting, and dealing with the aftermath of very public revenge. But I was also honest. My relationships were real. My daughters knew they could trust me to tell them the truth, even when it hurt. I was building a life based on reality instead of illusion, and for the first time in years, that felt like enough. I was working in my expanded shop when Eliza burst through the door waving an envelope. Dad, I got it. Got what? The fellowship. The research fellowship at the university. I'm going to be studying family trauma and recovery. I swept her up in a bear hug, both of us laughing. That's incredible. I'm so proud of you. There's more. They want me to co-author a paper about our case, about how families can survive public exposure of betrayal and come out stronger. Are you sure you want our story out there again? Dad, what we went through, what we survived, it could help other families. People need to know that it's possible to rebuild after betrayal. What about your privacy, Chloe's privacy? We'd use pseudonyms, of course, but the basic story, the way we handled it, the recovery process, it could be valuable research. That evening at dinner, Eliza shared her news with Chloe, who was now 16 and more mature than most adults I knew. That's amazing, Chloe said. Will you write about how it felt to expose Grant and Mom in front of everyone? If you're okay with it. This would involve all of us, our whole story. I'm okay with it. What we went through was terrible, but what came after was better. Maybe other kids need to know that sometimes families have to break apart before they can heal. What about you, Dad? Eliza asked. Are you willing to let our story become public research? I thought about it. 2 years ago, the idea of anyone analyzing our family's destruction and rebuilding would have horrified me. Now it felt like an opportunity to give meaning to the pain we'd endured. On one condition, I said. What's that? We tell the whole truth, not just about the betrayal and the revenge, but about the rebuilding, about how we learn to trust each other again, about how sometimes the worst thing that happens to your family can also be the best thing. Deal. 6 months later, I was reading the advanced copy of Eliza's research paper, Reconstructive Justice, How One Family Used Public Exposure to Heal from Systemic Betrayal. It was all there, the affair, the embezzlement, the paternity fraud, the wedding day revelation, but also the aftermath, the therapy, the conversations, the slow rebuilding of trust, the way we'd learned to be honest with each other about everything, even when it hurt, the way we discovered that a family built on truth was stronger than a family built on comfortable lies. The paper ended with a quote from our final interview. The betrayal nearly destroyed us, but the truth saved us. Not immediately and not without pain, but completely. We learned that sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything in order to build something real. I closed the paper and looked around at my life. Chloe was upstairs doing homework, confident and secure in the knowledge that she was loved unconditionally. Eliza was building a career helping other families survive trauma. I was running a successful business and slowly learning to trust people again. We'd lost the family we thought we had, but we'd built something better. A family based on truth, trust, and genuine love.